Today is Friday, July 23rd, 2021. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, COVID infections continue to surge and more variant cases are being seen. We'll talk with the infectious disease specialist, Dr. Tyson Bell, with regards to the most up-to-date information. Also, the CDC moratorium on evictions will end in 8 days. Advocates are calling for an extension. The funeral of Haiti President Jovenel Moise was interrupted by gunshots. We'll have that video for you. Plus, family and advocates for the victims of sexual predator Ed Buck are expecting a verdict in that trial very soon. The new prosecutor is in charge of the case against Atlanta police officer Garrett Rolfe, charged with killing Rayshard Brooks. And in Iowa, the announcer who went on a racist rant has been fired from the racetrack and expected to get a standing ovation at another. In our Education Matters segment, we'll talk about funding for charter schools. Is it in danger of being cut on the federal level? It's time to bring the also, I got one more thing on Education Matters. Deion Sanders shows you what happens when you have vision for an HBCU athletic program. I got that for you as well. It's time to bring the funk of Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
The COVID-19 variant, folks, is causing problems all across the country. It is hitting red states extremely hard. You have governors like Alabama Governor Kay Ivey, who is saying, throwing their hands up, saying, what do we do? Well, part of the problem is when you have these folks in these red states who have said they didn't want to get vaccinated. We're seeing more and more of these stories where people who refuse to get vaccinated, and now they're sitting in hospital rooms and they're dying because they're hard-headed. Dr. Tyson Bell is an infectious disease expert at University of Virginia. He has joined us on many occasions before. And Dr. Bell, look, you and Dr. Ebony Hilton and so many others predicted this in dealing with these folks, and they're so hard-headed, and all of a sudden these people are going, oh my God, I'm dying. In fact, Clavon Bell, I'm going to show you folks this here. He posted something today. He's, of course, the doctor out of Arizona who's been posting various COVID updates, and that was his 34-year-old brother, prominent anti-vaxxer, had posted all kind of stuff, how he wasn't getting vaccinated. At one point, he said he had 99 problems. The vaccine wasn't one of them. He dead. 34 years old. He's dead. Stephen Harmon, that's him right there. No longer among the living because he was adamant about not taking the vaccine. I think Doc's on mute. There we go. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Now we got
Okay.
you.
You think I know how to do this by now. Roland, thank you for having me on first off. And, this was one of these things that, I sure hope that I was wrong about this, but of course, the Delta variant, this is the most aggressive version of the virus that we've ever seen. In fact, Dr. Vasyl Walensky, director of the CDC, said that this is actually one of the most infectious respiratory viruses that we've ever seen, period. So when you have communities that have low rates of vaccination where people are still vulnerable, this is what you're going to see. And we have, in addition to Arizona, other areas of the country that have low rates of vaccination. you're seeing reports from hospitals that they're taking care of more COVID patients than they've ever had before, including last year, and opening up units again. So it's really sad to see. And what makes it so frustrating this time is that this is preventable. I work in the intensive care unit, which means that patients who come to me are critically ill, they're struggling to breathe, they're struggling for life. And we know for a fact that COVID-19 vaccines can prevent this. So it's a failure of messaging, failure of public health. There's an active misinformation campaign that I think is really contributing to this. And we really have to work hard to make sure that we can vaccinate people, correct the misinformation, and get vaccines into the community and convince folks that are on the fence to get vaccinated. And then think about mandates to get the rest of them because, we can't go through this again, Roland.
In fact, here is the video here of the governor of Alabama. And first of all, her state is last when it comes to folks getting vaccinated. They were so adamant when it came to a mask mandate. These idiots in Alabama voted for Donald Trump. They followed his stupidity, his refusal to put a mask on. He himself got COVID. Now we know, based upon a couple of books that have come out, Donald Trump was close to dying as a result. And if it wasn't for them throwing everything, using every life-saving measure, he would be dead due to COVID. And here is Kay Ivey saying enough is enough.
Let's be crystal clear about this issue. And media, I want you to start reporting the facts. The new cases in COVID are because of unvaccinated folks. Almost 100% of the new hospitalizations are with unvaccinated folks. And the deaths are certainly occurring with unvaccinated folks. These folks are choosing a horrible lifestyle of self-inflicted pain. Y'all, we've got to get folks to take the shot. The vaccine is the greatest weapon we have to fight COVID. There's no question about that. The data proves it. I've taken the shot back in December, both shots. And it's just the thing to do. So the unvaccinated is who we need to focus on. Y'all get them to start taking the shot. It's their job to take care of themselves and us as well. We can't do that for them. All we can do is everybody take the shot themselves. So encourage others to do likewise.
And Governor, one quick question to follow up on that. What would it take for you to implement a mask mandate?
I want folks to get vaccinated. That's the cure. That prevents everything. Why we want to mess around with just temporary stuff? We don't need to encourage people to just go halfway with curing this disease. Let's get it done. And we know what it takes to get it done. Let's get a shot in your arm. And so I've done it, and it's safe, it's effective, the data proves that it works. It doesn't cost you anything. It saves lives.
Governor, and that's
students who are too young to be vaccinated and are returning to school in a few weeks, are you recommending for them to wear masks in class?
That's left up to every school in the district to make that decision.
All right, we've got time for one final question.
Governor, you talk about the vaccine saving lives, but Alabama still is last in the country when it comes to vaccination rates. Besides, this emotional plea you just gave us, what is it going to take to get people to get shots in arms?
I don't know. You tell me. Folks supposed to have common sense. But it's time to start blaming the unvaccinated folks, not the regular folks. It's the unvaccinated folks that are letting us down.
Well, Tyson, if she had talked that tough a year ago and that frank a year ago, probably Alabama wouldn't be in the position.
That was exactly my thought. I really would have appreciated hearing some of this a year ago and early in the vaccine rollout campaign. So I was with her up until the point where she talked about what to do about it right now, because vaccines are effective. They are very effective at preventing severe COVID-19, but you cannot vaccinate yourself out of a surge. That's because the vaccines work very well, but they train your immune system to work. And that takes up to 4 weeks for the Johnson & Johnson, and it can take even longer for the mRNA vaccines. So you are not going to shut down a surge in your state with vaccinations alone. Eventually it'll work, but people will die. So what you have to do are public health mitigation measures. These are mask mandates at the minimum. And then think about capacity constraints in businesses and establishments and things like that to really break the chain of transmission, because the people who are infected today are infecting the people of tomorrow right now. So you have to do something right now. So vaccination is certainly a part of it, but right now they need to think about what to do about breaking the train of transmission right now. And I think the message fell off for me right at that point.
We got to deal also with these people who are just saying all kind of silly stuff. Homegirl of mine out of Atlanta, Shanae Hall, she posted the interview that I did with Dr. Ebony Hilton, and we talked about the Tuskegee experiment. And then all these folks who were jumping on her page, who were weighing in, and people like, whoa, well, y'all making a big deal out of this. And then one woman was like, I was able to keep my family straight by having them take vitamins and stuff along those lines, and then stop trying to force this down our throat and all sort of things along those lines. One person said, oh, it's all about, if all you got to do is just keep your immune system strong, and that's it. And then one person was even suggesting that when it came to the vaccine, well, forget a vaccine, we need a cure. And I'm going, there are no cures to viruses. I mean, so just speak to that, the skepticism and the stuff that people throw out here when it comes to dealing with these issues.
It's a very important issue because we want to make sure that people are getting accurate and up-to-date information. And just to be clear, vitamins are good. I take vitamins. I think diet and exercise are good. I try to do those when I can. But when it comes to a global pandemic that has killed over 4 million people worldwide, that did not exist until the end of 2019, it's a whole other game. And we have to think about what are the ways that we can prevent this. And luckily, we do have vaccines right now that are very safe and very effective. And for people that were skeptical about the trials, we saw the trial data was fantastic. For those who want to wait even longer, we've had the rollout going now for several months, and we've seen the effect of vaccination. So the amount of people that are going to the hospital who have been fully vaccinated, very low, about 3% of hospitalizations. The people who are dying from COVID-19 who are fully vaccinated, 0.5% of deaths from COVID-19. So you can see the power of what vaccination can do. I do think that we have to work on decentralizing the message and making sure that it's getting into the community from people that trust and love. So your pastors, your community leaders, your own physicians. There's a poll I saw that suggested that a large percent of people who are unvaccinated have not actually had a conversation with their physician about it. So these are the kind of things that we need to do to make sure that we can combat misinformation, encourage people to get vaccinated, and just keep pushing the message. We can't stop because we have to get to this goal.
And I just, again, I look at, and then some of these people going, well, one person posted, well, 99% of the people who've gotten COVID, they've survived. So you just want to ignore the 600,000 plus deaths. Okay.
4 million across the globe, 600,000 here. Those are certainly undercounts. We can focus on that small percentage, but when we're talking about a large segment of the population being infected, that small percentage of deaths is going to translate to a lot of people who died needlessly. And I want to emphasize the point. These are unnecessary at this point. We can prevent this. We were in a different situation last year and we were talking about mitigation measures, hoping for a vaccine. The vaccine is here. We need to get it in the arms. We need to make sure that people are protected, and we need to make sure that our children are protected. Remember, children below the age of 12, I've got two myself, they have no protection right now against an adult who might be in close contact with them, who's unvaccinated, who may not believe in public health mitigation measures. There is no protection for them right now. So we need to make sure we're doing everything that we can to combat this misinformation. And whenever these numbers are put out, we just need to come hard and correct with facts and just reemphasize how significant this pandemic has been, the toll it's taken on our community, and the fact that vaccination is the only way out of this.
Also, just because you might know somebody who got COVID and they're good today, don't mean every person that's had COVID is just perfectly fine. No, there are people who are still having debilitating problems who've had COVID. My attorney had to stop working on my stuff 3 months ago because she said because literally she almost died from a misdiagnosis when it came to COVID as well. And so I just wish these people would stop saying, well, I know a couple of people who had it, they good, so it's okay. I'm not going to sit here and get vaccinated because if I get it, I'll be fine too.
Roland, I just had a patient recently who recovered from COVID-19, had severe disease in the ICU, and recovered, but had a tube down his neck, was on a dialysis machine, and lived his life several months coming back to the hospital for other reasons and other complications. And he decided that this life is not worth living and went to hospice care. So we have to emphasize that it's not just death in those who live versus those who die. Living with COVID is still a burden for a lot of people. A survey found that over 50% of young adults who get infected with COVID at 6 months still have persistent symptoms. So think about the people who are not able to work, not able to care for themselves, not able to go back to their home, not able to take care of their families. This is the true burden. In addition to the deaths that we've had, this is no joke. It's frustrating, this time around because we have the way to get out of this, and it feels like we're failing on the public health messaging, and it's not acceptable. And I'm glad that people like Governor Hutcherson and some of the other Republicans are now talking about the benefits of vaccination. I wish it would have happened earlier, but this is on them. They need to get out there and get this done.
But also, Doc, I'll be honest with you. I was on a call today, and part of the problem also is with, for me, as far as I'm concerned, the media rollout. Look, we've been saying Black-owned media has been shut out in many ways from the campaign. They just sort of just threw ads out there. You didn't have targeted efforts. You didn't have folks targeting zip codes. We participated in a couple of several proposals where we pitched to Texas and Maryland, for example, for us to be able to come in, do live broadcasts in communities, talking about the vaccine, interviewing experts there, being able to say, hey, here we've got, these folks, we've got 500 shots available, 750 available, 1,000 available. Meet us here to do this here. Proposals got ignored. And so now all of a sudden, now they're going, oh, maybe we should have had a targeted effort as opposed to just sort of just throwing it all out there wide open and go. And what they did is they went to all these major media people, gave them millions of dollars, and just put stuff out there and did not have a targeted plan in terms of being able to reach people. The state of Texas kept Dallas County wanted to provide the vaccine first to the most affected communities. And they said, no, it should be open to everybody. And Dallas County said, I think we know better how to serve our people. They said, well, if you do that, we're not going to give you the vaccine. That, to me, is also part of the stupidity. And those of us who know how to talk to hard-to-reach communities, we were saying, y'all, that ain't the way. But folks in charge were so hard-headed.
I think there was a very big missed opportunity when it came to talking about the vaccines in advance of that rollout. There were several months where stage 1 and phase 2 trials were coming out, and people like myself and in the medical community were keeping track of this, but we weren't messaging the community at that point. And so when the vaccines actually rolled out at the end of 2020, it's like they're on the market, they're available. What are you going to do about it? And we just kind of had to catch up with the public health messaging. And as you know, there can be a lot of skepticism in communities of color, which have borne the brunt of medical racism for generations now. And so you have to think about, how do you get ahead of that message, combat the misinformation before it starts to happen, and really make it so that someone eases into that decision so that they're ready to make a positive decision to protect themselves when the vaccines are available, rather than starting that conversation right then. So the Biden administration did come in. They have had a focus on trying to make sure that vaccine information gets to communities of color, low-income communities, areas like this. But they came in late on the game, unfortunately, because the previous administration did not really have a focus on this at all.
Absolutely, and so and I ask, and what they've done with us, they want to keep trying to come to us in Black media, wanting to do stuff for free. I'm like, yeah, but you gave them several $1 million. But you want us to come over here and now save your ass and do it for free. I'm like, yeah, we done seen that before.
No, we can't have that, Roland.
Well, we've been sounding the alarm, and we made it clear to the White House as well, and we told them, I know for a fact, I told the Black Caucus before the election this was going to happen. I told the Biden White House when they got elected, yo, don't sit here and play black-owned media small. You're going to have to need to reach hard communities. They said, you better sit here and work with trusted voices. Stuff didn't happen, and now they're scrambling. And so we'll see what happens next. Dr. Tyson Bell, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Folks, just to understand, here's an example. In Georgia, a black couple who had been married 22 years died 4 hours apart because of COVID. Martin and Trina Daniel, they refused to get vaccinated because of the government's Tuskegee syphilis experiments on black men in the 1930s. Now remember, the government did not infect black men with syphilis. They knowingly allowed them to continue forward and not actually get treatment. But misinformation surrounding the virus is the cause for some or a lot of these cases. Check this out. Conservative radio talk show host Phil Valentine. Right now, this idiot is hospitalized with COVID-19 after telling his listeners they're probably safer not getting the vaccine if they're not high risk. This was Valentine's Facebook post announcing his diagnosis. Yes, the rumors are true. I have COVID. Unfortunately, for the haters out there, it looks like I'm going to make it. Interesting experience. I have to fill you in when I come back on the air. I'm hoping that will be tomorrow, but I may take a day off just as a precaution. It'll be a game time decision. His family issued this statement advocating for the vaccine. Phil would like for his listeners to know that while he has never been an anti-vaxxer, he regrets not being more vehemently pro-vaccine and looks forward to being able to more vigorously advocate that position as soon as he is back on the air, which we all hope will be soon. See what happens when you almost get it. Now, similar to Valentine, again, I tell you about Stephen Harmon. 2 days ago, he died from COVID, a month after posting this tweet. I got 99 problems, but a vax ain't one. Let's go to my panel. Michael Imhotep, host of the African History Network show. Candace Kelly, justice correspondent, BNC. Kelly Bethea, communication strategist. This, Candace, it shows you. And we can go on and on and on. We can show you white folks, black folks. We can show you young people, older people. We can show you middle-aged folks. We can show you healthy people, people who had, of course, who had other health issues. All kinds of different people have gotten COVID, and all kinds of folks have died. And I'm just trying to understand what the hell are these people actually think is going on here. This is no joke.
And it is hard to understand what's going on in their minds, and that's what we're all trying to figure out. These are math people, right? We all believe 1 + 1 is 2, but they're not understanding and believing the math in terms of the numbers of people who are in hospitals and those who are vaccinated versus not vaccinated. We know that the facts are there, but they're disregarding it. And at the end of the day, what for? If you're standing up for your medical rights, we already have gone to court in a couple of cases. Just this week, Indiana University, the judges said, you might have rights, but the bigger right is saving the public, the 7 students who tried to bring a lawsuit against Indiana University. In Texas, about 153 people stepped away from their jobs, lost paychecks, lost time, when the courts decided against them, saying, listen, this is a mandate. So I'm not sure, as you said, what's going on in their mind, because the facts are there. They're just trying to, sometimes pride, right? Pride cometh before the fall. And maybe it's one of those situations where people just are firm believers and they don't want to get off their pedestal to say, I was wrong. And saying I was wrong is a tough thing to say. A lot easier, though, when you are in bed and sick, if we just look at the examples that you cited. But I think that the numbers obviously tell the story. But as you said, hard-headedness just gets in the way.
And the thing, Kelly, that I just don't get with these people is if you want to sit here and play games, all right, but you also have families, and now you might impact your family. You might hurt them, and I keep saying this, and I know people think I'm joking with it. There ain't no flip side to death. Now, we can talk about the everlasting. We can talk about eternity. But bottom line, there's no flip side to death. None of us actually know what death feels like until we got to experience it. I'm just trying to understand how these fools want to play Russian roulette. I don't understand it my damn self.
I don't understand it either. And I have friends and family members alike who are still adamant about not getting the vaccine, but I'm not necessarily around them that much because I want to remain safe. Even though I am still vaccinated, I have family that I want to see who are immunocompromised, elderly, the like, and it is selfish of you to think that it is just you who is affected by a vaccine. The reason the Delta variant is as dangerous and pervasive and spreading like wildfire like it is because not enough people are vaccinated. And what boggles my mind is that for the past year, we have been begging for a vaccine. We have been begging for some type of reprieve from the death that we saw for an entire year. And we finally get that reprieve, and people are like, oh, it came too quickly. I do not understand that logic. I do not understand that logic, especially when said reprieve could not have come quickly enough. We have over 500,000 people gone. They are not coming back. Like you said, there is no flip side to death. And even with all of the evidence, you still have people who are saying, I don't want to get vaccinated. Even in the NFL, people are like, oh, I'm willing to quit just so that I don't get vaccinated, citing my body, my choice as their mantra for this thing, not realizing that if you were ever educated in a public school, you had to get vaccinated. If you've ever traveled outside of the country, past the Caribbean, you got to get vaccinated. If you want to do anything as an American in the public sector at all, chances are you have already been vaccinated or you will have to be vaccinated. And it does not make sense to me that this particular vaccine is politicized because we have this stronghold of selfishness in our culture. It's ridiculous.
I'll give you a perfect example, Michael, that is that I need people to understand what happens when you play games, and then when you are unwilling to tell some other folk how silly they are. On many occasions, Bishop Harry Jackson, he was a conservative, was Republican, had him on the show. This right here, this video that I'm about to play for you took place on April 10th, 2020. And this is Bishop Harry Jackson in the Oval Office.
Respect for Bishop, please. Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, let me say thank you for the job you're doing, you and the Vice President, to protect our nation. And you've included the churches in the relief efforts. Many churches would have had to close down had it not been for your insightful leadership. So thank you both very much. Thank you. Good Friday, as we prepare to pray, is one of the darkest days in the Christian faith in that Christ stood in substitution for our sin. But the resurrection is our victory. But it parallels with the Passover. I'm going to read 2 verses and pray out of them.
That was April 10th, 2020. Almost to the day, 7 months later, Bishop Harry Jackson would be dead. 2005, Bishop Harry Jackson suffered esophageal cancer. He almost died in 2005, had a stroke as well. Fought through that, he beat cancer. But Bishop Harry Jackson chose to attend the Rose Garden ceremony when Amy Coney Barrett was picked for the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. We all know that that particular event became a super spreader event. Bishop Harry Jackson died on November 9th, 2020. on November 7th, 2020, Bishop Harry Jackson was confirmed he had COVID. There was a white pastor, an elderly white pastor, who had visited Bishop Harry Jackson's church, I think it was here in Maryland or Virginia. And he actually announced that he had COVID as well. Now, here's Bishop Jackson running behind Trump, going to the White House.
Right.
They sitting here. Trump would tell people, take this off. He didn't want them sitting here, sitting in front of him, wearing a mask, and they all did it. His first wife had passed away. He had remarried in 2018, was married for 3 years. He dead.
Mm-hmm.
He dead. Not one time did Donald Trump send a tweet out about his death.
Right.
Now here you are praying over him in the Oval Office. There are photos of Harry Jackson putting his hand on the shoulder of Trump, praying for him. And you died from COVID. And the man who himself got COVID, who endangered the country, didn't even issue a tweet acknowledging you died. That is the craziness we're talking about, Michael.
You know, brother, there's so much to say. Let me start out like this. You know, the difference between a religion and a cult is that in a religion, your savior dies for you, but in a cult, your savior asks you to die for them. And this is what we're seeing. These are some dumbasses following Trump, and Trump got vaccinated. Okay, my condolences out to the family of Bishop Harry Jackson. Don't forget Herman Cain's dumbass also was following them as well, tweeting about not wearing masks, things like that. He's dead too. Okay, so this is what happens when you follow these idiots. Now, a couple of quick points here. 610,000 people dead right now in the U.S. from COVID-19. Population 330 million people. 1918, 1919, the great pandemic in 1918, 675,000 people in the U.S. died with a population of 106 million. See, we are 55,000 short of how many died in 1918, 1919 from the great pandemic, and we got 3 times the population. This is not over. I told you 2 or 3 weeks ago, I'm like the Lone Ranger. I don't take my mask off. I knew this stuff was going to blow up because you got dumbasses out here. I'm not talking about people who, for something like I have a friend who can't get the vaccine because she's allergic to medicine. I'm not talking about people like that. I'm talking about people who are just refuse to get it and are listening to conspiracy theorists, listen to people like Stephen Harmon, who unfortunately died, listen to people like the conservative talk show host. When you look at Fox News has a vaccine mandate. You got to take the vaccine to work there. You have to take the vaccine to work at Fox News, okay? You had Dr. Ebony Hilton on a couple of days ago talking about the Tuskegee experiment of untreated syphilis in the Negro male. I've done an entire lecture on the experiment. There were 600 men in the study. 399 of the men had an early form of syphilis called latent syphilis, L-A-T-E-N-T. People go research this. Latent syphilis means you have the syphilis, but you don't have symptoms. 201 men in the study did not have syphilis. They were the control group. Whenever you do a study, you have a control group that does not have the stimuli injected into it or exposed to it to compare the two. So even though the Tuskegee experiment was bad, I'm not saying it was good, we totally misunderstand it. A better example would be the mustard gas experiment from World War II on African-American World War II soldiers, where they were deliberately exposed to mustard gas and the white soldiers were not. But as I tell my listeners, get medical advice from medical professionals. Get medical advice from medical experts, not simple Simon-ass people on social media who are pimping you and lying to you, because some of these same social media pimps in February and March of 2020 said black people couldn't get coronavirus. How'd that work out for you?
And you talked about Herman Cain. Y'all remember when that idiot so-called comedian Terrence Williams put this video here out, and them sitting there doing a jig in Tulsa. This was the Tulsa rally that Trump had. and you see all these old ignorant black Republicans, watch this. Ooh, who's that right there? There's Herman Cain. That's that fool David Harris. That's that other fool, the other reverend. But Herman Cain is writing this video as well. 2 weeks later, Herman Cain was hospitalized and then died almost a month later due to COVID. Y'all, what we're trying to say here is this here. Y'all out there, y'all want to go to these events. Let me tell you something. When I watched all them people who were outside the stadium during the NBA Finals, I sat there and said, oh, hell no. No mask. I mean, they were packed in that bag, but thousands of them, no mask, no. I'm telling y'all play these games all y'all want to. I ain't trying to check out early. Just not. I ain't trying. Look, everybody has an expiration date, but why in the hell do I want to speed it up? That's all I'm saying. So if y'all want to see them play games, y'all can go ahead and play games. We gonna use some common sense over here. And look, I got some folks and they were like, Roland, we need to get panelists back in the studio. Nope. 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 It ain't happening. Because again, until we are out of this phase, until we are out of this danger, I am not going to sit here and put folks at risk. I mean, I look right now, there are 5 folks sitting in the control room, 6 folks in the control room. And look, I'm trying to get people to understand, to every one of my staffers, you do some stupid shit out there, you're putting all of us at risk. You decide to go to a party, with a whole bunch of people. You don't know who the hell is there. You don't know who got vaccinated. I went to an event the other night, and man, like this one dude, he rolled up to me. I was like, hey, bro, your ass too close. Like,
Roland,
and he was talking. I was like giving him the shoulder with the mask on. I was like, dog, because I was like, yo, bro, back the hell up. Go ahead, Candace.
People have to understand too that if they're out of work right now and they have the unemployment checks and whatnot, when they get back to work, or if they're out of work for any other reason, they get back to work, their employer can tell them that they can be mandated to wear that mask and get the shot. So they're fighting against even bringing in a livelihood at the end of the day in terms of what's going on in their lives. They have to make the decision to get this in order to not just live, but also to live and make a living, because eventually all employers are going to mandate it because it makes no sense not to.
Well, in fact, there was an NFL coach, Rick Dennison, who has been fired by the Minnesota Vikings because he absolutely refused to get vaccinated, and the NFL has mandated all teams, all Tier 1 employees have to be vaccinated. My wife did send me this cartoon here that's hilarious, and I ain't got no qualms with it. It's go to my computer. He ran up on me without a mask, so I social distance his ass. Look, I am.
That's a move. That is a whole move.
I'm not encouraging violence, but what I am saying is, if your ass ain't vaccinated, don't be rolling up on me, talking to me on my face. No, back up. No, it ain't happening. So I'm just letting folks know. All right, y'all. Advocates call for an extension on the federal eviction ban on July 31st. The moratorium and eviction ban is going to expire. Those at risk are calling on President Joe Biden to act, but so far this administration has only rolled out a new measure allowing homeowners to refinance their mortgages and cut monthly payments. The end of the emergency measures means nearly 6 million renters are at risk. In addition, a federal appeals court ruled that the CDC stepped outside of its authority by enacting the eviction moratorium to begin with, calling the measure unlawful. As of now, it is not likely the moratorium is going to be extended. Antoine Thompson is the former executive director of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. He joins us. So Antoine, what's going to happen? Because 6 million people. You start throwing folks out, we're still in this crisis. It's going to be a problem.
Yeah, you got two first. Thank you for having me on. Yes, the way this program has been rolled out has been a major challenge for people. So remember, not only do you have 6 million people who have or are on the verge of eviction, but you also have a lot of landlords who, this was imposed on them as well. I was at dinner last night in D.C. with 4 Black men who own property, and some of them have multiple tenants that have not paid rent in 15 months. The rollout of this aid to states has been horrible. And so you have tenants that don't know what they're going to do, and then you have these states that have only rolled out about $3 billion of the $46 billion. So we've got to have more outreach to tenants. We've got to have more outreach to small mom and pop landlords, because what's going to happen is you're going to have tenants on the street, and you're going to have massive foreclosures by Black property owners in our community.
So what you're saying is we're going to be in total disarray because there's no consistency when it comes to policy.
There's no consistency at the state level. The outreach has been horrible. We need to be more aggressive as a country to help these small Black property owners that may own 3 or 4 houses, may own a 20-unit apartment building. Half the people have been paid. A lot of tenants as well have been afraid because, they haven't paid rent. Some people may have had the money. Some people may not have had the money. So they're afraid to talk to the landlord. And so it is going to be a disaster between people not paying the rent, between the property owners who now have to try to figure out, as one landlord told me last night, the mortgage still's got to get paid. The property tax still got to get paid. If they have a part-time person, doing the painting and landscaping for them, that person still has to get paid. So we're going to have a dual effect for Black America, because most of our folks that own property don't have a lot of money. We have a lot of first-generation property owners, and so the court, I think they went a little too far with this. Yes, people did need relief. I know I was one of the ones trying to get people relief, but we also said that the feds, in terms of marketing and outreach for rental relief and for mortgage relief, it has been atrocious and it's unacceptable. And Black people are going to suffer the most on the rental side and also on the ownership side. You're going to see a lot of craziness going unless something is done pretty quickly.
So what should be done? What can people do to prepare
so
for
they
this?
need to, great question. Number one, they need to be firing up their state legislators, because the feds did their job of allocating $46 billion. Only $3 billion has hit the street. You need to call your state senator, your state assembly member or state representative, and you need to call your governor's office and say, get that doggone money on the street. And then they also need to reach out to the members of Congress to put more pressure on their state legislators to get this money out there. It's unacceptable that you have over $40 billion that's just sitting in the Treasury and it's not on the streets helping people who desperately need it. Because just extending it and not getting people the money is unacceptable.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we certainly will see what happens next with this. It is not a good thing for those who are going to be adversely impacted. We appreciate it, Antoine. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Folks, today in Haiti, shots rang out, roads were blocked, and barricades set on fire as the body of the slain Haitian president, Jovenel Moïse, was returned to his hometown today for his funeral. Supporters of Moïse demanded justice by disrupting the ceremony as protests in the Caribbean nation continue weeks after his assassination. U.S. and United Nations delegations left about 15 minutes after arriving as the hostility increased. Maureen Moïse spoke to the crowd for the first time since the deadly raid on her home, telling the public not to be afraid during this moment of uncertainty.
Dieu de tendresse, accueille notre prière pour Jovenel.
At least 26 suspects are in custody in connection to Moise's death. Police are still looking for several more suspects they say were involved in the assassination plot, including a former rebel leader and an ex-senator. All right, folks, got to go to a break. When we come back here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, we'll give you an update on the Ed Buck trial. Of course, the white Democratic donor who is on trial for killing, causing the death of 2 black men. Also, we'll give you an update on the Rayshard Brooks story. Plus, Deion Sanders makes it clear he is not playing when it comes to elevating the Jackson State University football team. All that's next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
The same forces that are trying to pass these bills across the country, but here in Texas, to, yes, suppress, to stop, to undermine the vote. The same folk that block you from having living wages are the same folk that wouldn't fix your utilities problem.
In this time, when our voting rights are under attack and economic justice is being denied,
we're launching a season of nonviolent moral direct action to demand 4 things by August the 6th, the 56th anniversary of the signing of the Voting Rights Act. Number 1.
end the filibuster.
Number 2. Pass all provisions of the For the People Act.
Fully restore the 1965 Voting Rights Act.
And number 4, raise the federal minimum wage to $15.
Pass the For the People Act. That is the last best hope for voting rights, not just in Texas, but Georgia and Florida and about a dozen other states.
Pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Bill and the For the People Act. Let our people vote.
The Latinx community is the rising electorate in Texas, and our representatives are threatened by these shifting demographics. Our pathway to citizenship, to a living wage, depend on our access to the ballot.
This is not just a black issue.
That's right.
This is a moral, constitutional, and economic democracy issue.
Poverty is reinforced by public policy. And what happens in Texas, as well as in America, we create policies that perpetuate poverty, and then we criminalize the poverty that we create.
There's only so much we can take, and it's time for us to stand up and speak loudly against what's happening here.
I think in Texas that it is time for a Selma-like. I think we ought to march from Georgetown to Austin. And we ought to come to Austin, but we ain't coming to Austin just for Austin. We come to Austin to save the Washington, D.C. Which side are you on? And don't tell us you can't do all of this. You must do all of this for the soul and the heart of this democracy. Forward together! Forward together! Forward together!
Our aides have lost the ability to focus the discipline on the art of organizing.
The challenges, there's so many of them and they're complex, and we need to be moving to address them. But I'm able to say, watch out, Tiffany, I know this road.
That is so freaking dope.
Hello, I'm Nina Turner. My grandmother used to say, all you need in life are 3 bones. The wishbone to keep you dreaming, the jawbone to help you speak truth to power, and the backbone to keep you standing through it all. I'm running for Congress because you deserve a leader who will stand up fearlessly on your behalf. Together, we will deliver Medicare for all, good jobs that pay a living wage, and bold justice reform. I'm Nina Turner, and I approve this message.
Carl Payne pretended to be Roland Martin. Holla!
Hi, I'm Chaley Rose, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, today in the trial of serial predator Ed Buck, the prosecution and defense delivered their closing arguments. Prosecutors called 8 victims to the stand throughout the trial. The one witness the defense called claimed the 2 black men found dead in Buck's West Hollywood apartment, Jamel Moore and Timothy Dean, died from AIDS and other factors other than the methamphetamine Buck fed them. The 66-year-old white Democratic donor is charged with 9 felony counts. If convicted, he'll get a maximum penalty of life in prison without parole. The jury is still deliberating. I'm certainly waiting for that verdict to come in. Folks, in Georgia, the Rayshard Brooks murder case is now new prosecutor. The Attorney General announced that Peter Scandalis, the executive director of the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia, will serve as substitute prosecutor in the case against Atlanta police officer Garrett Rolfe. Last month, a judge granted Fulton County DA Fannie Willis's request to recuse herself from the case against Rolfe. Willis, of course, who took office in January, said the actions by her predecessor, Paul Howard, made it inappropriate for her office to handle Rolfe's prosecution. Now, you remember on June 12, 2020, Brooks fell asleep in his car in the drive-through lane of a Wendy's restaurant. Police body camera shows the 27-year-old black man struggling with 2 white officers after telling him he had too much to drink to be driving. They tried to arrest him. Brooks grabbed a taser from one of the officers and fled, firing it at Rolfe as he ran. An autopsy found that Brooks was shot twice in the back. Rolfe is charged with murder and other offenses. The other officer, Devin Brosnan, was charged with aggravated assault and violating his oath. We'll certainly see what happens there. In Philadelphia, a police officer accused of deleting video from a man's cell phone following a traffic stop. He's now facing charges. Officer Tyree Burnett stopped Jacob Giddings back in March. It was Burnett's body cam video that captured him going through Giddings' phone to erase the footage. Burnett is charged with attempting tampering, of course, obstruction of justice, and official oppression. Giddings has filed a lawsuit against Burnett and the department for the incident. Philadelphia Police Commissioner suspended Burnett for 30 days and intends to fire him as the suspension ends. That's appropriate, Candace, because, again, he literally deleted the video that was on the phone. For what purpose? If it was just, I don't care if you're shooting.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're getting rid of evidence there. So this is the right thing to do. Hopefully we shouldn't expect anything less, but we know what often happens during this process. So there you have it. He should be where he is right now, and facing whatever comes to him because of what he did. That's just the bottom line.
I just get a kick out of these cops, Michael, who think they can do what the hell they want to do. And this is also why body cam footage matters. Because if he wasn't wearing the body cam footage, we wouldn't have the evidence of him deleting the video.
Absolutely. We talked about this 2 or 3 weeks ago here on the show, Roland, and I said, that looks like tampering with evidence. And I read the article from the Griot today about this. He's being charged. Absolutely. That's tampering with evidence. And when you watch the video, you see him take the little plastic shield off the phone also as well. So he had to go through a couple of steps to go through and be able to delete the video as well. Then he lied to the gentleman and said he didn't know if the videos were still there or not. Because the guy asked him, it's all recorded on his body camera. He asked him, did you go onto my phone, things like that, or what have you? Is the video still there? He said he didn't know anything about it. So, yeah, he should be charged. He should be prosecuted. He should be found guilty. He's all right there on camera. We have the evidence.
This to me, Kelly, is where I just sit here and I go, really? Really? So you think you got that much power? You should delete something from somebody's phone because you didn't like that they were shooting video of you?
Well, the reason why cops like this one and others think they have that much power is because previously speaking, they did have that much power. With or without a body camera, we have a long history of cops basically getting away literally with murder, with tampering with evidence, with creating evidence. Pick a crime, cops have been getting away with it for quite some time. It is actually a phenomenon to have cops held accountable for their actions. So in a weird way, I actually understand how and why this occurred, because he is so used to getting his way, because this is a culture of police officers, especially corrupt ones, getting their way so often that it doesn't matter whether he had a body camera or not. I would venture to say that he probably knew that he had the body camera on and still thought he would get away with it because of that culture. So considering that this is now in court, he's being charged, again, a great step in the right direction, but the threshold as far as cops getting away with murder is really, really high, because it takes almost a perfect case, such as what we saw just a couple months ago with George Floyd. It takes almost perfection in order for any cop, certainly a white one, to be held accountable for a Black life being compromised or even killed.
Roland, there was actually, if you look at the video, I mean, we're also looking at a little bit of assault, battery. I mean, he took his phone. So, of course, there's tampering with evidence. That's the base of it. But he was pretty active in trying to get that phone away from him. So I'm surprised that there are not other charges in addition to the tampering with evidence, because he did a lot besides just the base level tampering in this, thinking that he could do so, as Kelly just said.
And that goes to police officers getting away with it. It's right. That culture. It's that culture of being able to do whatever you want to do because they know innately that they can get away with it. So the fact that, again, we are turning the tide is a phenomenon. So hopefully he actually is held accountable for his actions.
And that's what we've seen, Michael, in the past. They have operated with impunity. And now I know people are saying, hey, more needs to be done. But the reality is we are seeing, because of protests, because of the action, we're seeing more and more cops being held accountable for their actions.
Yeah, 5 or 10 years ago, a lot of these cases we would not have seen being brought against police officers. As you have more cities, more municipalities that have body cameras, and is going to continue as well. And it should. There has to be accountability. You're not above the law. You're not God. Okay. You can't tamper with evidence like that. So it has to continue. This is a small step, but this is important as well. And this should serve as a notice to other officers who have gotten away in the past with tampering with evidence and things like that. You're under a microscope now, and you should be.
All right, folks. We were discussing COVID earlier, and I think the Republicans really try to outdo themselves as to who could be the absolute dumbest in Congress. Now, Louis Gohmert, I mean, he is top 3 dumb. Tommy Tuberville is right on his heels as the second dumbest member of Congress. That new fool, Ronnie Jackson, who was Trump's doctor in the White House, his dumb ass, he got a bullet shooting up the charts. But I really believe on the Senate side, next to dumbass Tommy Tuberville, has got to be Tom Cotton. I have got to play for y'all what this fool said today on Fox News, and I need y'all to brace yourselves for this fool. I need y'all just to brace yourself, because he's just stupid. Okay, y'all hear it? Y'all have it? So let me get this, because this, oh my goodness, y'all. I mean, I'm talking, when I say just dumb, I mean, we talking about a really dumb person. And he is known to say stupid stuff. And just, this is like Hall of Fame stupid. All right, listen. All right, let me see if I can, let me see what's going on here. We've got some audio that's, we should be fine here. Now let's, not sure what you guys are hearing. Bring it up, please. So he was talking to John. He was talking to John Roberts, and the reason I'm laughing here at this fool, because first of all, let's talk about what he does. What he does, what Tom Cotton does is he loves to get upset at the political people who do their jobs. Okay, so this is an interview with John Roberts today about the administration and COVID.
The White House is sort of leaning in that direction. We had President Biden.
All right, so I'm gonna do this here. I'm gonna go to a quick break. I'm gonna come back and play this because I gotta talk about this, y'all, because I want to show y'all the stupidity. We'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hopefully put another nail in the coffin of racism.
You talk about awakening America. It led to a historic summer of protest.
I hope our younger generation don't ever forget that nonviolence is soul force.
Priceless.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.
That are trying to pass these bills across the country, but here in Texas, to, yes, suppress, to stop, to undermine the vote. The same folk that block you from having living wages are the same folk that wouldn't fix your utilities problem.
In this time, when our voting rights are under attack and economic justice is being denied,
We're launching a season of nonviolent moral direct action to demand 4 things by August the 6th, the 56th anniversary of the signing of the Voting Rights Act. Number 1.
end the filibuster.
Number 2. Pass all provisions of the For the People Act.
Fully restore the 1965 Voting Rights Act.
And number 4, raise the federal minimum wage to $15.
Pass the For the People Act. That is the last best hope for voting rights, not just in Texas, but Georgia and Florida and about a dozen other states.
Pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Bill and the For the People Act. Let our people vote.
The Latinx community is the rising electorate in Texas, and our representatives are threatened by these shifting demographics. Our pathway to citizenship, to a living wage, depend on our access to the ballot.
This is not just a Black issue.
That's right.
This is a moral, constitutional, and economic democracy issue.
Poverty is reinforced by public policy. And what happens in Texas, as well as in America, we create policies that perpetuate poverty, and then we criminalize the poverty that we create.
There's only so much we can take, and it's time for us to stand up and speak loudly against what's happening here.
I think in Texas that it is time for a Selma-like. I think we ought to march from Georgetown to Austin. And we ought to come to Austin, but we ain't coming to Austin just for Austin. We come to Austin to save the Washington, D.C. Which side are you on? And don't tell us you can't do all of this. You must do all of this for the soul and the heart of this democracy. Forward together! Forward together! Forward together!
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, this was the conversation with Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas one of the top white supremacists in the United States Senate. Listen to this.
I want to ask you about mask mandates, because it looks like the White House is sort of leaning in that direction. We had President Biden the other day in that town hall say that he believes that the CDC will soon issue guidance calling on all students under the age of 12 to wear masks in school. Some people looked at that and said, wait a second, he's putting his thumb on the scale here, sort of telling the CDC what to do. Ron DeSantis, though, governor of Florida, said he's having none of that. Listen to what he said yesterday.
There's been talk about potentially people advocating at the federal level imposing compulsory masks on kids. We're not doing that in Florida, okay? We need our kids to breathe.
So after that, the White House came out and criticized DeSantis. Listen to what Jen Psaki said.
That puts kids at risk. It's not aligned with public health guidelines. We know masks are not the most comfortable thing. I will say my kids are quite adjusted to them.
So the federal government can issue guidance. It cannot issue mandates to anything other than federal employees or people who work at the national parks. So you've got the governor of Florida saying, I don't think this is the right thing to do, and the White House coming down on them for it, or coming down on him for that. Is that the White House's role?
No, John. Well, but first off, let me say, nobody elected the CDC. No one elected Tony Fauci to make these decisions. Advisors advise, elected officials decide, and the American people elected Joe Biden and the members of Congress and our governors and our state legislatures to make these decisions for us. If you just turn these decisions over to a bunch of public health bureaucrats, of course, the only thing they're going to consider is what they think is in the best interest of public health. They're not going to balance off interests like.
First of all, kill the music. I'm sorry. Did I just actually hear, Candace, him say that public health experts are going to do what's in the best interest of public health? Okay, let me run that one back. Pull it up, guys. Audio.
Advisors advise, elected officials decide, and the American people elected Joe Biden and the members of Congress and our governors and our state legislatures to make these decisions for us. If you just turn these decisions over to a bunch of public health bureaucrats, of course, the only thing they're going to consider is what they think is in the best interest of public health. They're not going to balance off interests like whether people can make a living to put food on the table or whether kids can learn at school, an integral part of which is be able to see each other's faces.
I'm sorry. I would hope that public health officials are going to make decisions that's in the best interest of public health. That's kind of in their title, Candace.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. I'm surprised that his mic wasn't killed. I mean, the CDC in and of itself is a federal agency that was put together in order to watch out for the health of the public. That's their role. I mean, they both work for the federal government. Why is he attacking someone who he should really be supporting, and it's making sense for everybody? Whether you wear a mask or not, it doesn't matter if you're dead. So he absolutely made no sense. I mean, he was saying that the power should be left to the states, but with the same token, what he said made no sense. The CDC is there to protect the public. They are there to protect the health. That's exactly what they're doing. Why he's taking shots at it, I will never know. I'm sure you have the answer to that in terms of how smart or how dumb he is.
I'm just baffled, Michael, with you're dogging public health officials for factoring in the public health.
I'm not baffled. He's a dumbass. Just like Senator Ron Johnson is a dumbass. I'm not baffled. They have no policies to help even the people who voted for them. They have no policies. None of the Republicans in the House of Representatives or the U.S. Senate voted for the American Rescue Plan, even though the Grim Reaper, Moscow Mitch McConnell, was in Kentucky bragging about how $4 billion was coming to Kentucky from the American Rescue Plan. Then he had to admit, I didn't vote for the bill. Now, the most important thing in what Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas just said is he admitted the big lie is a lie, because he said the American people voted for Joe Biden. He just told on himself. He just admitted the big lie is a lie. That should be part of campaign ads for the midterm elections. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas admits the big lie is a lie. He just admitted it on Fox News. The other thing is guidance from the CDC is not a mandate. People know this. People look to the CDC for guidance. They were looking to the CDC for guidance under Trump. Guidance is not a mandate. So they're just trying to fill up airtime between crying about critical race theory and can't tell you what critical race theory is. That's all that is.
I cannot stand these fools, Kelly. The party is trash.
I mean, trash or not, what actually baffled me more than the fact that he's upset that public health officials actually care about public health, if you really listen to the rest of that statement that you played, he actually pits public health against the economy. He pits public health against children going back to school and other policies and initiatives that are important, but not as important as public health. And that's not saying anything against the economy or any other issue, but you can't spend money if you're dead. You can't go to school if you're dead. You can't raise your children if you're dead. And public health officials do their best to make sure that you're not dead. So I don't understand that whole just rant, frankly, of nonsense. But again, like you said, Republicans aren't really making sense anymore, mainly because they don't have a platform. They don't have policies anymore, but for just don't do what Democrats do.
I also, there was some news today out of Cleveland where the Cleveland Indians baseball team, they have decided that they are going to change their name. They are no longer going to be called the Cleveland Indians. They're going to be called the Cleveland Guardians. This is going to be their new logo. This has been one of the things that has been talked about for quite some time to get these sports teams to stop using American Indians as their mascots.
Amen.
But you always got. It's always great to have really stupid people, and one of the most stupidest people is Rich Lowry. Rich Lowry of the National Review. Let's just say he's clueless. In fact, he posted this tweet here, and just like that, the Indians adopt the dumbest, most pointless name in major professional sports. Well, let's just say, Michael, he got lit up all across social media because people said, Rich, have you ever heard of the Utah Jazz?
You know,
no one equates Utah with jazz.
Right.
And for those who don't know, the New Orleans basketball team used to be called the New Orleans Jazz. That made sense. And then they moved to Utah and they kept the jazz part. Yeah, that made just like, if you really want to be honest, the Los Angeles Lakers is pretty a stupid name. Because they were the Minneapolis Lakers, which actually made sense because, you know, the Great Lakes, it kind of makes sense. The Arizona Cardinals, pretty dumb name, because that's not really who they are. Trying to think, you got a few other just absolutely, I mean, obviously you used to have the New Orleans Hornets because they came from Charlotte. Then they changed their name to the New Orleans Pelicans. Kind of makes sense. Then you had the Charlotte Bobcats, and that was only because Bob Johnson owned the team, which was one of the biggest disasters in Charlotte sports history. But yeah, these folks love complaining about something, and I'm just trying to understand. So, Rich, you want it, and in fact, that idiot Trump even put out, I think he put a video out or some kind of press release complaining about the name. Okay, really? See, this is what I keep saying, Michael. What they don't like is now that we now have a voice and we get to decide things, it's bothering them that we're changing these symbols of white supremacy.
That's right.
That's what's driving them crazy.
Well, absolutely. You just had the statues of General Robert E. Lee and Thomas Stonewall Jackson taken down in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Speaking of one of those, could y'all please roll the video of the decapitation in Tennessee of Nathan Bedford Forrest as his bust was being rolled out. If y'all had a video, please? While y'all had a video, I sent to y'all earlier. What's the whole point of me sending the video? Y'all ain't got it. Michael, go ahead. I'll find the video. Go ahead, Michael.
So what you have here, the name should have been changed. Now, from my understanding, Guardians comes from some statues that are there in Cleveland or something like that. So I knew Trump was going to say something because he's an irrelevant person trying to stay relevant. He's been knocked off of social media, rightfully so. Yeah, they should change the name. They should change the name of the Detroit Lions to the Detroit Scaredy Cats or something like that too, as terrible as they are. But, you know, I ain't watched football since like 2016 or something like that, since Colin Kaepernick got put out the league 2016, 2017. I don't even watch the Super Bowl. But you have Confederate monuments being taken down, General Robert E. Lee, Thomas Stonewall Jackson in Charlottesville, Virginia. And when you study General Robert E. Lee, The Atlantic has a really good article called The Myth of the Kindly General Robert E. Lee. General Robert E. Lee was against Confederate monuments, even those dedicated to him. So you had the Unite the Right rally, these 12 white supremacist organizations in August 2017. They are trying to save a statue dedicated to a man who didn't want a statue. And they had the Confederate battle flag in Northern Virginia under General Robert E. Lee's army, which is not even the Confederate flag. Lastly, Charlottesville, Virginia is named after an African woman, Queen Charlotte Sophia, who was the wife of King George III, who was the king that the 13 colonies were revolting against. She was of African Moorish ancestry on her mother's side of the family. So they would probably have a fit if they found out Charlottesville was named after an African woman.
Look, first of all, Kelly, you're asking dumb people to read. So that's just not going to happen.
I mean, what do you want to say? Because I have yet to meet a smart racist. I mean, that's just how it is.
No, I disagree. There are some smart racists.
I've met manipulative racists. I've met vindictive racists. I've met racists who have support of other racists and therefore now have power. But as far as an intelligent, smart racist, no, I have not.
Unfortunately, I have, and that's why one of the fears of some folks is that you're going to have one of these sane, smart racists who use the same thing that Trump did to get elected to run in order to win the White House. And part of the deal, and it might work because we have people who are unwilling to own up to the sheer stupidity of some of these people. But that's the whole piece. All right, folks, let's go to Iowa, where an announcer who went on a racist rant at a racetrack, well, he ain't got a job. A white announcer, Lon Delk, is caught on camera at the Kossuth County Speedway talking about athletes who kneel during the national anthem and also the NFL's decision to start playing the Black National Anthem. Do y'all have the video? Let me know if we have the video. The Raceway released the following statement after the incident. They said, quote, Kossuth County Speedway and the Kossuth County Fair Board do not condone the comments made by the field announcer. We do not tolerate discrimination at our racing events and welcome fans of all color, gender, religion, and creed to join our racing family. We also want to clarify these comments were not made by Chad Meyer, the usual track announcer at KCS. We acknowledge that though this is an isolated incident, that does not make it okay. Of course, they said, going forward, we will no longer be employing the individual who made those comments as a field announcer at any of our track events. We will not comment further on this incident because there are no further comments to be made. It was not okay, and it will not be happening again. Kossuth County Speedway looks forward to proving our fans, drivers, and crews that we can and will do better. Delk has been a longtime track announcer at the Fairmont Raceway in Fairmont, Minnesota. A promoter for that racetrack says Delk will keep his job there and will receive a standing ovation before the national anthem later on tonight. Ah, you gotta love it, Kelly, when racists stay united.
I mean, but what else can they do? You know, that's the only reason racism has power. It's power in numbers. It's power in a school of thought. Once you dismantle that power by way of really changing minds of racists, or just frankly just waiting for them to die out, things change. But nothing really surprises me when it comes to racism, when it comes to these people who really are on their last leg when it comes to racism having a modicum of power, a modicum of respect. I'm frankly just waiting for it to die out, for them to die out.
I don't think they're gonna be. Look, here's the deal: we can wait for them to die out, Candace, but they have children.
That's right. Right at the dinner table tonight, they are teaching their racist ways. But when we look at all of these stories, whether it's a derogatory trademark for a team, or whether it's somebody who goes on a racist rant, being a sports announcer for a team, it's all got the same thread. These people are comfortable in their zone. And I don't know, do they read the headlines? Do they not understand that if they say something racist today, in July of 2021, they're not going to get away with it the way that they did 5 years ago? So, shame on them for not even understanding that what they're going to do, what they're doing is going to have consequences. It seems like they're reading everything else about being, part of the Trump cult, but not seeing in the headlines that the power that they have is diminishing. People are not only calling them out, but people are doing things about it in terms of making them lose their jobs, making them lose their livelihoods. Be caught out on a video at the Short Hills Mall, right, in New Jersey, like we saw that woman. Be called a Karen in any way, you are going to lose your job. And that's what we are seeing is happening right now. So the power is coming, but you are right. The messages are being spread from one generation to the next. Even if they're not talking, they're looking at their ways. They're looking at them go to the Capitol riots. They're looking at them, look at certain TV shows and not like them, looking at certain books and ways that we teach our students in school in critical race theory. These ideas are being shared. It's going to be a long time coming, not in my lifetime, in terms of when we see where most races disappear.
Well, and that's why we just going to keep sitting there and giving them hell, Michael, and just going to keep exposing them and putting them out there. And any of those fools want to give them a standing ovation, we'll make sure we don't come to your raceway, don't support your businesses or your products.
Absolutely, and put them on blast. And when you look at the story here from thehill.com, the announcer said, I got 4 words for you. Find a different country if you want to do it. If you want, this is a silent protest. They took a knee, a silent protest, find a different country. America was born out of protest. I guess he never heard about the American Revolution. That was a violent protest. That's how America was born. See, when
Michael, you have got to stop assuming these people read. I don't know why they don't read.
They can watch the American Heroes channel.
No, they don't read. You can't even put this in the pictorial. They don't. These are not smart people.
Well, we know that a lot of the...
And remember, you were not supposed to be able to read. And this is why.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. This is why they made it illegal for slaves to read in Virginia after the Nat Turner Rebellion, because it was legal for slaves to read up until 1831 in Virginia, and Nat Turner was literate.
See, there you go again.
Right.
You keep trying. Y'all know why you keep trying. I don't know why you keep doing this.
But then he took offense to the NFL's anti-racism efforts, including Lift Every Voice and Sing, playing Lift Every Voice and Sing before the games. The NFL is like almost 80% black, okay? And is the Black National Anthem. Okay, so what we have here is this cultural anxiety that a lot of white people have. Not all white people, but a lot of white people have, is being ginned up by Fox News and Donald Trump and conservatives with attacking with critical race theory and things like this. And once again, this is why America needs a massive history lesson. Now, it may have to be a pictorial because some of them can't read, but this is why America must have a massive history lesson also.
No, but then they don't want you teaching that in schools. Do y'all remember that crazy-ass white Florida woman who made headlines for tossing both a Whopper and a racial slurs at a Burger King worker back in May? Well, She's been sentenced to probation. Yeah, retiree Judith Black only got 12 months of probation after a no contest plea to the misdemeanor charge of battery. Black was also hit with a $785 fine in order to go to anger management classes and can never go back to the Burger King location in question. Wonder how many black people she's gonna run into, Miss Black. All right, y'all. We're going to come back in a moment. We're going to talk about Education Matters segment. Could charter funding on the federal level be in danger of being stripped out of the federal budget? We'll discuss that next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
White supremacy ain't just about hurting black folk.
Right.
You got to deal with it. It's injustice. It's wrong.
I do feel like in this generation, we've got to do more around being intentional in resolving conflict.
You and I haven't always agreed.
Yeah.
But we agree on the big piece.
Yeah.
Our conflict is not about destruction.
Conflict's going to happen.
I'm Bill Duke.
This is Diala Riddle, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay woke.
All right, folks, the massive federal budget proposal could put a dent in the charter school funding. The House Appropriations Committee would cut money for charter schools by $40 million and potentially limit many charter schools from receiving federal funds altogether. What does this all mean? Joining us is Nina Reese, president for the National Alliance for Public Charter Schools. So explain this, Nina, exactly what this would do. How much money does the federal government currently allocate to charter schools, and how much we're talking about losing here?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Roland. It's always nice to see you and to be on your show. The cut in question is to the federal charter schools program, which is a federal program that's been around since the late 90s. And we currently have about $440 million that's allocated to public charter schools that are just launching or replicating. And the cut in question would shave about $40 million in funding, and it's in the House Appropriations bill that passed the full Appropriations Committee and will be on the floor next week.
So what is the basis of the cut? Are Democrats simply saying they want to shift the money? What explanation is being given?
Well, that's a good question. They have raised overall expenditures in this budget by 40% for K-12. So you could argue that in the past, when this committee has shaved $40 million, because this will be the third time they've done this, you could argue that President Trump was in office and they were worried about overall expenditures in K-12 going down. But in this particular instance, we are seeing a 40% increase. And what's interesting also is that President Biden's budget has $440 million in it for charter schools. So this is also not in line with the party's own president's request. And in terms of where it's going, that's a good question. They have increased everything else, so it's not as if they needed this $40 million. $40 million in the labor HHS budget is a very, very tiny sum.
So, okay, and that's the point there. So obviously, everything can't be funded. So from your perspective, why is this significant? And how could it somehow impact charters nationwide?
Well, again, it's insignificant, but at the same time, that's why it's so symbolic. I do think that those in power right now in the House, unfortunately, are probably a little bit more aligned with the teachers' unions and the opponents of charter schools. And we haven't been given a good explanation as to why this cut was necessary. We also have a number of members on the Congressional Black Caucus and members of the Democratic Party who signed a letter endorsing $500 million going to public charter schools or to this particular program. And we also have a lot of advocates in the Senate. And I think the opposition is, quite frankly, against the growth of charter schools. And what's ironic, quite frankly, is that this year, and certainly because of the pandemic, more students are attending and have enrolled in charter schools. And so at a time when the popularity of these schools is on the rise, unfortunately, the House appropriators have opted to reduce the allocation for the very reform that stands to create more high-quality public school options.
So, who are y'all targeting to try to keep these resources in the budget?
Well, certainly the Senate is one of the bodies that always has supported charter schools, and there's broad bipartisan support for charter schools in the Senate and the administration, certainly since their budget allocates $440 million. But more importantly, we also think that the families and those who stand to benefit from charter schools need to be far more engaged than ever before in making sure that Congress knows that they are holding them accountable and that they are supportive of charter schools. It used to be that we had people in powerful places that supported charter schools in all three branches of government, but increasingly, without the grassroots, it's very difficult to continue these allocations of resources. And I think, the case for support for charter schools, as you know, is a very strong one. Academically, our students do better. They're popular. Parents want them. And most importantly, a lot of the individuals who start charter schools really believe in the common school ideal that public education embodies. And they are very liberal individuals who want to save public education and create an alternative that fits their community's needs. So we also need to do a much better job of talking about this and making sure more people hop on board and support charter schools.
All right, then. Nina Reese, really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
All right, then, folks, let's give you an update on CBS investigation into racist and abusive allegations. The network has now finished its investigation, resulting in the firing of 2 general managers. First of all, earlier they fired 2 executives with CBS local station managers, Jay Howell in Chicago and Derek Dalton in L.A. They no longer are employed. CBS Entertainment Group boss George Cheeks sent out a corporate memo stating this. While the investigation largely looked at events in the past and the issues revealed were more pronounced in certain areas and at specific stations than others, there are clear themes that we need to address moving forward. And our diversity, equity, and inclusion standards need to be a top priority for leadership in every corner of our station's business. He said point blank that our workplace culture needs to measurably improve and your trust needs to be restored with your CBS leaders. Now, this comes at months after longtime CBS execs Peter Dunn and David Friend were fired for denying black journalists opportunities to advance. Candace, this was the National Association of Black Journalists when I'm Vice President Digital. We were very much involved in this once this story was broken by the LA Times, meeting with George Cheeks, meeting with other executives with the company. And, CBS has been hit with allegation of allegation. You've already had Dr. Ian Smith, who has filed a complaint against them in New York because of what he's dealt with Dr. Fields' folks who oversaw the TV show The Doctors. And, I mean, we've just heard countless stuff. And what you're dealing with, this is what people talk about systemic culture.
Yes.
That's one of the deals. And so what some are saying is, okay, you get rid of 4 managers, but what about the mid-level managers who carry these things out? Are you fully rooting out? And also, what also did happen today, just give me a second, they did fire the head of HR at their station in Kathleen Kelly. She was the WCBS Human Resources Manager. She was fired this morning as well.
And not only is it just the systemic culture inside of newsrooms, but these are mostly white men who are controlling the culture in terms of what we see, the images that we see. But this isn't new. You and I have been in a lot of newsrooms across this country. And, what happens is that the Black Lives Matter movement, all right, I'm going to go back there because This made general managers, news directors across the country, mostly white men, they had to change their ways. And a lot of them were scrambling when the Black Lives Matter movement came about and George Floyd was murdered, because they had to figure out, how do we cover the news? What do we do with the people who are now complaining to us, because now we're being held more accountable? That was old hat. This is a new system of people who are more in control and understand that diverse newsrooms matter. And not just black and white. We are talking about Asians. We are talking about Latinos. We are talking about transgender, LGBTQ. Everybody now, the floodgates are open in terms of trying to make change. You know, my friends and I have conversations often that say, you know, the time for a black woman is right now. You better get it in, because we don't know how long it's going to last. But it is going on right now in terms of the voices that we have, and not just us, but I'm just saying in terms of my friends, not just us, but many people who are able to speak now and finally see some change. Ian Smith is going to get exactly what he wants. There are too many eyes on it, and he is somebody who has been in the trenches long enough for people to respect and believe him, because that's been the problem too. Calling HR, calling the 1-800 hotline at your job, making accusations and just not being believed because nobody wants to do anything. Ian Smith is we'll see more of him in court. We'll see him come out the victor.
This is the thing that I have been saying for quite some time, Kelly, that people don't quite get. That media is the last bastion. If you truly want to bring an end to white supremacy, you have to understand the role that media plays, because that's controlling the narrative. That's controlling what is said, what is seen. And so I've been one of these folks who've been very aggressive in terms of how we go after these media companies, because again, this is what we're talking about. Because when you're able to affect the hearts and minds of people, then you're able to change the conversation.
But not only that, the reason why we're seeing this change on top of the social pressure is tied to the money, right? A lot of these executives are afraid of losing money. And it's not to say that these social issues do not matter, but if these social issues were not backed by dollars or not threatened by the loss of money, we would be getting nowhere. So back to your several episodes where you talk about Black media and Black advertising dollars, and even advertising dollars that are white owned but are catering towards social issues, if we do not keep that pressure up, then we can regress into a media in which our stories and our perspectives and our narratives are silenced like they have been. So I just want to make clear that if it weren't for the money being tied to these issues, if we did not have the exposure to the BS that is going on that is tied to the money, then we wouldn't be getting anywhere, you know. So keep putting your money where your mouth is. Keep making sure that you actually stop watching that show if they don't have Black representation. Make sure that you have representation in everything that you're watching, everything that you're consuming by media-wise. And if you don't see what you like, make some noise about it. And that's how things will change in that arena.
The thing we hear, Michael, when we talk about these local stations and these networks, again, what happens is these general managers, these news directors, they're controlling who gets hired. They're controlling who the anchors are, who the reporters are, who the assignment editors are, who the producers are. They're controlling every facet. And what we have to understand is that this is, I mean, you can lead people in a way. We see this in how Fox News, what they've done with critical race theory. These people, when they control media, look, I understand. That's why I made the decision when I was 14. I'm going to go into media, because I understood the power. I've long said that when there's a coup anywhere in the world, the first thing they get control over are the guns. Media is second.
Second, right. Right, yeah, you know, Roland, in my background's in media as well, and my degree's in marketing from Wayne State. So I saw this like 30 years ago. And Kelly hit on something here talking about the money. The white corporations that take out ads on CBS programs are complicit. See, white corporations finance this. These networks make the majority of their money through selling ads. Okay, so and when you talk about Fox News, these corporations are complicit with the propaganda that Fox News is putting out. And this is why when we take action, it's not just against the networks we have to go after. When we talk about changing the culture in, say, a CBS, for instance, it's not just CBS we have to go after. We have to go after the corporations that are complicit. They know what's going on also, that finance them to take out ads. They're complicit as well in this also. So it's good that this is being exposed with CBS, okay? And I want to see the actual follow-through on this. But I want to hear from the advertisers of CBS as well, because they're complicit in this also.
Well, again, I just want people to understand when y'all hear us talking about the power of media, this is what I need you to understand why these things matter and not act like, well, this is no big deal, because media controls the narrative, and that's why it's important. All right, folks. Deion Sanders, of course, is the head coach for Jackson State University football team. He dropped a video today that I thought was really interesting that I wanted you to check out. Y'all, watch this.
Arrived on campus in November. Brand new locker room will be complete probably by November with all the bells and whistles, players lounge, barber shop, everything. Brand new turf field. Wow. We're doing a grass field right here. That should be done in probably about a month. So we'll have 2 practice services. We deserve this. Our kids need this. They wanted this. And we went out and hustled, worked our butts off, and got it. Walmart, I thank you. NFL, I thank you. And Smack, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you for everything we're accomplishing. Let me tell y'all something. I want you to start dreaming while you're awake. See, you're doing the old dreams. You're sleeping, you're dreaming, and oftentimes when you wake up, you don't even recall or recant your dream. Start dreaming while you're wide awake, because I want you to see it. I want you to visualize it. I want you to be able to touch it. I want you to be able to feel it. I want you to be able to truly imagine that it could be possible. I wish you would have seen this just a few months ago. Look at it now. Look at it now. Don't you ever tell me what God can't do. Coach Dancy, Mississippi Valley, we had a wonderful conversation with your kids that were there at Media Day, man. How can we help you get this? Everybody out there listening to this, how can we help Mississippi Valley State get the same darn thing we got? Because our kids ain't no better than them. They deserve it as well. It shouldn't be just us. That's a good brother that loves his kids, loves the responsibility that God has placed on his heart, and he loved the position he's in. We need to help him get the resources to do the same darn thing. I'm dreaming, and I'm wide awake.
Now, go to my computer, please. Deion posted this as well on his Instagram account. He says, upon arriving to JSU, I noticed many great things, but I also noticed many things that needed to change for progress. One drastic thing was that Hail State football, that's Mississippi State, Ole Miss football, and Southern Miss football had beautiful 18-wheelers for the transportation of their football equipment for travel games. I didn't understand this apparent misfortune of how JSU, were left out. So I made some calls to Brett Favre, who called this person, who called that person, and that placed me in front of my friend, former Governor Phil Bryant, and he made a call, and guess what? God is good. A closed mouth will never get fed. Relationships are currency, people. And then he had, of course, JSU and some other names. Thank you, Jesus. This is awesome. A true blessing to our program. Hashtag Coach Prime. The thing here, Michael, and the reason I'm showing that is because here what you have is Deion Sanders saying, how these other schools, these other state schools, have these fine facilities and practice fields and facilities and all these different things, yet this HBCU is in decrepit condition. Talking about, again, that equipment truck. And I know some folks might say, oh, man, this ain't got nothing to do with academics, but it actually does, because these are the kind of things that we see at HBCUs that are public institutions, whether they're the academic programs, whether they're the athletic programs, where they are treated like second-class institutions. And what he is saying is, no, we need to have a first-class facility. And if things happen, people always say, man, if our kids would start going to the HBCUs instead of going to these white schools. But folks got to understand something. These black athletes are also making decisions based upon facilities.
Yeah, you know that's a powerful clip that you just showed, and I've been following Deion, man, for decades. I read his autobiography also, as well. What he showed there is vision. What he showed there is vision, and bringing your vision into fruition. He's going through showing you what's going to be over here, what's going to be over here. See, he didn't just say cut the check. He followed a plan to bring this into fruition, to get the money. Okay, so this is this is something I'm going to have to go back and watch that again. This is something that's powerful, and this can serve as a model for other HBCUs as well, coaches at other HBCUs also. And then he reached out to Phil Bryant, former governor of Mississippi. We ain't gonna deal with Phil Bryant's history. And Carolyn Bryant, we ain't gonna talk about that. But he reached out to him. He used his network to get this money, and that's what you have to do. So that's powerful.
The thing here, Ken, is that I think is important, and we're seeing this at Bethune-Cookman. They hired Reggie Theus to be their athletic director and basketball coach. Tennessee State hired former NFL star and Heisman Trophy winner Eddie George to be their head football coach. We've seen these things happen at other institutions. And so what's interesting is that these HBCUs are going after high-profile individuals to lead their programs. What that also does is those individuals bring their relationships with them to those institutions.
And those relationships mean money for things like Deion Sanders is advocating for, right? And so when we talk about not only the power of sports, plus the power of people in order to advocate for the students who may not be in the same position as other white schools, then you actually are translating it into better academics. Because if you have a student that feels good about him or herself on the field, right, that on the court, they're going to feel better about who they are inside of that school, that they're not treated like second-class citizens. And that does translate into the classroom. I mean, the better that they feel about themselves, but the better that they will perform. We know, based upon the whole name, image, and likeness that these college athletes can now oversee and be in charge of, they are a big deal. So we do need to treat them like a big deal, as long as it translates into them getting their academics done. And it does translate. We go from the field to the classroom. The two definitely are connected. You have to connect the dots there.
Of course, this was something that people were talking about when Nicole Hannah-Jones and Ta-Nehisi Coates announced they were going to Howard University. This is what we were talking about last Friday. We had Dr. Cornel West on talking about what HBCUs he would like to go to. And he threw out 3 institutions, and we mentioned Morgan State as well. And at the end of the day, what this is about is elevating our institutions. This is no different than when I ran the Chicago Defender. every black media place I've run, I've said, Kelly, if people work here who say, well, you know, this is a black place, I said they will be fired. Because see, what they're really saying is we're second class. That's really what they're saying. We're second class, and that's the thing that we have to change when we have that mindset, when we accept that mindset. And so what Deion Sanders is saying, what others are saying is, no, we're not second class. We want the best like anybody else, and this is what we got to do to get it done.
I absolutely agree with that. I am also an HBCU grad. I went to Bowie State University, and even though I may not have been in a position to always give back financially, I use my voice to give back. I use my presence to give back. I use any connections that I have to give back. But more importantly, I talk about my school in the same vein that somebody would talk about the University of Maryland, somebody would talk about Harvard University, because the amount of excellence that comes out of that school is on the same par, if not better, in my opinion, than those of Ivy Leagues and the like. In fact, I have friends who graduated with me who ended up in Ivy League schools for postgraduate work, which tells me that HBCUs are on the same par in order to get to those levels, which means that they are at the same level, in my opinion. You have to talk about your school like that. Even if you didn't go to an HBCU, you have to talk about things that were made for you in the same vein, with the same pride as something that was not made for you that is just mainstream. If we have that culture, if we have that mindset that we actually are excellent, and that Black excellence is not just a hashtag that you use when you're mad at some white person who said something off the cuff, you know, it makes a difference. It makes a difference in how that HBCU is viewed. It makes a difference in how students look at that school. It makes a difference across the board. It makes a difference in how that school gets money and how that school gets connections. Howard University would not be where it is today if we did not have all of these celebrities and all of their alumni bragging about their school, because people wouldn't necessarily know about it. It is where it is, not because of just because of the excellence that comes out of that school, but because of the word of mouth from their alumni about that school. So other HBCUs need to apply that logic. Other Black people who are interested in HBCUs who may not have attended also need to apply that logic. But at the end of the day, we just need to come to a consensus that we are just as good, if not better, than our white counterparts in academia, because that is what the evidence is telling us, not just some pie in the sky dream that we have, or some misconceived notion or inflated notion of who we are. It is a fact that we are excellent, and we need to act like it.
All right, folks. Some breaking news out of St. Louis. Go to my computer, please. St. Louis and St. Louis County, they are reinstating the mask mandate. So even in indoor facilities, and so they are putting that in. I think we're going to see more city, counties, and states do that for safety. And so, Mayor Tashara Jones was one of the folks. So they've had rising infections in that state, and so it is going to begin on Monday. And they said we've lost more than 500 St. Louisans to COVID-19, and if our region doesn't work together to protect one another, we could see spikes that could overwhelm the hospital and public health systems. So we're beginning Monday. It's going to be required in indoor public places and on public transportation. Masks are going to be strongly encouraged outdoors, especially in group settings, but not required. All right, before we go, Chelsea, come here. So we're talking about HBCUs, and so ghetto fabulous Chelsea Cosby. Chelsea, today's Chelsea's last day. Chelsea was one of our. Hey, put your damn mask on. Put your mask on. I don't know who you've been around. I don't know who you've been around. All right, so Chelsea is not one of our originals, but she's close to being one of our originals here, Roland Martin Unfiltered. And so Chelsea is leaving. Today's her last day. She's going to work for Newsy. Yeah, here, put some Perel on. There you go. You can take your mask off. All right. So Chelsea's going to work for the site Newsy. So today is her last day. We wish her well. Now look, don't go over there embarrassing us, okay? All right. So I mean, you better go over there. No, you better go over there and handle your business. Cause see, I'm telling y'all, she gonna learn in the first 48 hours all the hell I would give her about here. This is what's gonna happen. I'm telling you, she gonna send me an email. Damn, I'm glad you were hard on me, cause you were not lying. I'm just letting you know right now. Okay. So I'm telling you. Okay. I'm just letting you know.
No, I'm gonna call you like, Roland, the white folks over there on that crazy. They know.
You don't.
They know.
You don't say that, right?
No, we had a conversation. They know.
Oh, you can tell. Yeah, see, that's one of y'all Howard people. Yeah, that's one of y'all. That's one of y'all Howard people. That's one of y'all Howard.
He loves me.
That's yeah. So Chelsea is leaving, and she was all scared to tell me she was leaving. I was like, why? When people leave, I'm good. I don't trip. She was kind of like all scared. She thought I was gonna cuss her out or something. I was like, all right. When you're leaving? No, I don't. Seriously, I don't get why people trip when somebody decides to leave. I'm a firm believer that when somebody believes that they've learned all that they've learned, that then it's time for them to go to the next level. And so I ain't never had a problem with that. Seriously, I've never tripped when somebody left. I was like, okay, when your last day?
He was like that.
Yeah, and then she was like, up to you. I was like, no. Actually, you tried something else. She tried to say, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. I was like, no, that really ain't up to you. I can decide that. So he might want to make that decision. So good luck over at Newsy.
Thank you. I'll be calling you.
No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Rolly.
No, you're not. You got to get by security. No, you're not.
Rolly. You know your niece gonna let me up here.
Okay.
My girl Lanny.
Okay, and she may not be working here if she do that. So.
Oh, don't do Lanny. Don't do Lanny like that.
Yeah, I will. Okay, all right. Chelsea, good luck. Take care. And
we gonna get that selfie.
No, you got to bring. Come on, go with your little camera. You got to leave all paraphernalia here. You can't take stuff with you. I don't care. That's why I got washing machines. What the hell wrong with you? So what?
Don't do that.
What?
Be nice. Party gifts.
What?
Don't be cheap.
Is that called repossession?
Right. That's called. You don't own that. That's what it's called. You don't own that. All right, come take this picture. Let me thank Candace Kelly and Michael for being on our panel today. Y'all go ahead and roll the credit. Come on, doggone phone. Right? First of all, you need to clean your lens. All right, let's take this selfie here. Stop being extra. All right, let's see here. All right, here we go. All right, please. All right, we're done. Go away. Thank you very much. All right, yeah. Gone. Lord have mercy. Ooh, black people be so extra. Folks, if y'all want to support what we do here at Roland Martin Unfiltered, please do so by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar you give goes to support this show and what we do. For instance, we're going to be traveling to Texas on Tuesday for the voting rights march taking place. We'll be broadcasting live streaming every single day as they march from Georgetown, Texas to Austin, Texas. We're going to have, of course, live coverage of the massive rally going to be held at the state capitol on next Saturday, July 31st. You can support us, Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal.me/R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo.com/RM Unfiltered. Also, Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com, Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Folks, thank you so very much. Y'all have an absolute fabulous weekend. I am headed to Myrtle Beach, play a little golf with my frat brothers tomorrow. Also, don't forget, tomorrow at 8:05 Eastern, I'm going to be with my man, Ali Velshi on MSNBC. So I do Ali before I hop on a plane to go to Myrtle Beach. So I'll see y'all tomorrow on MSNBC with Ali. Y'all know how we do it. Holla!
Yes, suppress, to stop, to undermine the vote. The same folk that block you from having living wages are the same folk that wouldn't fix your utilities problem.
In this time, when our voting rights are under attack and economic justice is being denied,
We're launching a season of nonviolent moral direct action to demand 4 things by August the 6th, the 56th anniversary of the signing of the Voting Rights Act. Number 1.
end the filibuster.
Number 2. Pass all provisions of the For the People Act.
Fully restore the 1965 Voting Rights Act.
And number 4, raise the federal minimum wage to $15.
Pass the For the People Act. That is the last best hope for voting rights, not just in Texas, but Georgia and Florida and about a dozen other states.
Pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Bill and the For the People Act. Let our people vote.
The Latinx community is the rising electorate in Texas, and our representatives are threatened by these shifting demographics. Our pathway to citizenship, to a living wage, depend on our access to the ballot.
This is not just a black issue.
That's right.
This is a moral, constitutional, and economic democracy issue.
Poverty is reinforced by public policy. And what happens in Texas, as well as in America, we create policies that perpetuate poverty, and then we criminalize the poverty that we create.
There's only so much we can take, and it's time for us to stand up and speak loudly against what's happening here.
I think in Texas that it is time for a Selma-like. I think we ought to march from Georgetown to Austin. And we ought to come to Austin, but we ain't coming to Austin just for Austin. We come to Austin to save the Washington, D.C.
Which side are you on? And don't tell us you can't do all of this. You must do all of this for the soul and the heart of this democracy.
Forward together! Forward together! Forward together! And not one step.